Oh my goodness. Came sliding into home base here. I almost didn't make it. Oh no, I guess I did miss it. 7:01, guys. Let's get started. What's up, Carrie? Big thank you to you, by the way. Awesome. I just saw the Patreon notification. Thank you for that. Guys, it's Friday, 10 p.m. or 10 p.m. So in some parts of the country, 7 p.m. my time. I know I got a message before somebody said they couldn't do it at Friday because they had to get up at like 4 a.m. tomorrow, Saturday. Whew. Anyway, without further ado, no beer today. Felt a little out of beer, so what's that though? Firestone Walker, a beer collab. Got a good night planned for today. Anyway, what are we doing? We're going to talk about HTs. I know that the title says, which BaoFeng radio should you get? But I said, are there better options? Because you're going to try and mesh it together and see if there's other potential radios you should be looking out for. That's a healthy pull right there. I'll get the plane down the runway. So what you're looking at in front of you here is all of my kind of go-to HTs. Probably the three most used are right here in front. The the Yaesu FT60R, the BFF8, and my Kenwood D72A. Although I've been carrying this Redivis RT82. God, there's so many acronyms. So basically, one of the questions, actually, wait, let me go back and do my housekeeping, because I had all kinds of fun stuff happen last week. First of all, last Saturday, TRW Swap Meet, we had 4 people come out, 3 people actually took their license. The 4th person was a spouse that didn't want to get their license, but just want to re-mention that's awesome that so many people came out and get their license. We're going to do it again at the end of this month if I'm in town, which I should be. So look forward to that for you guys that are local. We're going to do it all over again. Facebook. Hoshnasi, right? Hoshnasi. We also have the Ham Radio Crash Course Facebook group, so go check that out if you have not already. Join up. Simple question, you'll go check it out. It's fun. Anyway, and then Patreon. It was like basically 1 full week of Patreon last week since I put up that video sometime this week, and it's been great. Thank you so much. Got tons of comments from people. Very supportive. Appreciate it. We'll talk about you guys at the end of the video. Also, the newsletter is going to go out this weekend, Saturday or Sunday, so heads up on that. If you're interested, go check out patreon.com/Hoshnasi. Okay, that's enough of that. All right. I made a presentation. Yeah. Took a little bit of my engineering parts and I made a presentation for us today. So let's look at that now. Which BaoFeng is best BaoFeng? Hawkeye. Oh man, we got everybody in the chat room. We got some love for whiskey from Carrie. That's awesome. Out of beer. Ice Bomb. Inconceivable. So technically I'm not out of beer. I don't know if you guys noticed that. This is a Firestone Walker collab scotch. Firestone Walker, great maker of fine, delicious craft beers. So what's this? Wow, it's very light colored. That's a very light colored scotch. This is supposed to be a double cask. That is very mild. Wow. Wow. That's a double cask. So it's supposed to be pretty strong. It's a Highland. Okay, so a little on the mellow side. Pretty good. Taking my technician class test to license tomorrow from Jason. Awesome. Hawkeye's checking in. Rob from Missouri here. Greetings from Huntsville. What's up, Ray? All right. Good luck, Jason. Yes, indeed. Please tell me how you go. Go join the Ham Radio Crash Course Facebook group and then make a post if you complete. If anybody goes and takes their license and you're watching this, go join the Facebook group and tell everybody there that you made it. And everybody will give you the big thumbs up. So, which BaoFeng is best BaoFeng? I get this question all the time, and what I mean by that question is people literally send me messages with a link and says, is this BaoFeng good? Here's the problem with that. BaoFengs all pretty much have standards, right? Standard BaoFeng is a dual band, meaning VHF, UHF, 70 centimeters, and 2 meters. Okay, they're all 5 to 7 or 8 watts output power. Now, I should have an image here, but I didn't have the time to find it. I was literally rushing to get here, guys, so appreciate everybody bearing with me as I get my bearings. So the the power output difference between 5 to 8 watts is not actually that much when you factor in the dB output and the receive of people receiving you. It's not actually that high. You're only getting, I think, at most 20% more, but I think that's way too optimistic. Somebody in the chat could probably look it up, but basically the jump from 5 watts to 8 watts is not that appreciable. So if you can't get an 8 watt, which I've been going back and forth with somebody, I don't know if he's in the chat, I could look up his name later, but he's in India, or Canada, another person in Canada had the same problem. To use my link, or to use any link from Amazon US, you pay like an absorbent high fee. Very, very high fees, very, very high shipping to try and get the radio out to you. So that sucks. So if you can't get that, don't worry about it. Just get a radio. Get on the air. Start listening. Start receiving. Go through that whole thing. So anyway, continuing on. It's dual watch. It's not really 2 VFOs, but the radio has the ability to have 2 channels, and it can listen to one at any one time. And it listens to both, and the first one it gets, and then when it ends, it switches over to the other. So you can dual watch. You can keep track of 2 channels simultaneously. Okay? So it makes sense so far. This is just simple, handy, talkie radio stuff. Well, you're going to turn you off. I don't know why you have your volume up. All those are supposed to have their volume down. They have lithium-ion batteries, mainly, nowadays, so they can operate, most of them, for a full day of receiving and some talking, right? It's like 20% duty cycle, meaning you're going to be listening 80% of the time and transmitting 20% of the time, roughly. Some things that most all the BaoFengs have in common is limited memory channels. They all have about 120. There's some that have more, but the standard BaoFeng, right? If we're talking UV5R, BFF8, UV82, UV88, all those, right? They all have these crazy nomenclatures, but they're all generally this capability. They also have horrible menus for programming, and I think they have kind of ugly aesthetics, meaning they just look kind of ugly. Let me go back to my table here. I mean, just compare your standard. This is your B. Oh, let me get the coaster out of the way. BFF8, not the best looking radio, right? Just kind of a box. The Kenwood, it's like a scientific machine. It's almost like a calculator. It's got all the ports on the side for connecting to your computer. Awesome. And the Cerritos just looks like it's a serious, like, hard-duty radio. This thing is really, really capable. It's water-resistant. It's a commercial-grade radio, so it's of pretty high quality for what you pay. Question in the chat. How long does it take to get ham certified? As little time as it takes for you to be ready to take the test. You just need to go watch some of my previous videos, go download the app, maybe go buy yourself the Gordon West book from my link is in the description, and just start studying. Some people say it takes them as little as a week. Hold on. I got this thing. That's enough of that. Got this humidifier thing going on in the background. It's like killing me. Yeah, I have a cough, so again, thanks for bearing with me if I start having a crazy cough attack. Mel asks, works great on NOAA and public service bands. Well, that's true too. So, we'll talk about that. He's talking about the BaoFeng, by the way. So what can you do with your BaoFeng? You can talk simplex. People ask me, how do I just talk to another person with my BaoFeng? Because everybody talks repeaters. It's the same with any radio. You key up a frequency that you don't hear anybody talking on. You should sit and listen for a little bit. And then you call CQ, or you call your call sign and say anybody out there, or call your friend, right? And they've got a radio, and that's how you do simplex. Simplex is like walkie-talkie talking, right? It's key down, say who you are, who you're talking to, let go of the key, they respond. There you go. That's simplex in a nutshell. Hawkeye asks, kind of wondering if radios have 2 receivers internal in order to dual VFO. Ha-ha! We're going to talk about that too shortly. In short, the BaoFengs do not. They don't. Yeah, it's just one VFO. It's dual watch though, so it's going to switch over to whichever one takes the presence, the receive side, the front end first, and that's what you're going to hear. Okay? You can split the RX and the transmit separately, although that's more something you do on repeaters. You don't necessarily want to do that You can, but that's more of an advanced feature. You can look that up. Repeaters. We've covered this in most of my videos, so I won't go into it. You can obviously program these radios to function on repeaters. Repeaters allow you to... Repeater receives your signal, boosts it, amplifies it, and broadcasts it from a very high mountaintop, so you get out really, really far. And you can go online. I may do that later. I'll show you the repeater I'm on most of the time. It's got this really cool map that shows you its propagation area, and you can see it like it's just blasting RF. Right? Obvious FRS, GMRS. The reason you can do FRS, GMRS on a BaoFeng is because they kind of have loose is the right term, loose restrictions as far as how they operate as a radio. Usually, amateur radios that are sold in the United States have restrictions that they only work within 2 meter and 70 centimeter. BaoFeng just kind of said like, well, yeah, they work in there, but then we kind of push the margins a bit out to the side. Because what they wanted to do is they wanted to make it acceptable to operate on the FRS and GMRS frequencies. And to do that, they had to send it to the FCC. So they just said, okay, well, we'll just make one, and we'll try and get it certified for both. Now, the reason why it's easy to certify it for ham radios, because ham radios, it's kind of on their own butts, if you will, if you're doing something wrong. The ham is supposed to be the one that is policing themselves. So if you have a radio that operates in FRS and GMRS, it's obviously ham equipment though, you're kind of supposed to know better and not do that. So they said, okay, well, it's an amateur radio in the sense that it's for the hobby, it's for exploring things in radio, if you will, and so that's why the BaoFeng's kind of like okay and acceptable on both. Okay? DTMF, so DTMF is it's a standard of sending tones. So if you hold down the PTT and use the keypad, it's almost like you're calling somebody via a repeater. And if that repeater is using IRLP, if it's linked on the internet, meaning internet-capable repeater, you can actually reach out and talk to other repeaters, right? So if you ever heard the term Echo Link, right? Echo Link is where you can use your phone and you can work repeaters. If you have your amateur radio license, you can do that. You can go download an app. Just go search on Android or on the App Store and just search for Echo Link, right? Download the app, you type in your call sign, sets it up, and you can hop around. You can find all your local repeaters, basically, if they're enabled, and you can talk on them. Unfortunately, it's got pretty high latency, so if you're on a repeater where people are very active, it might be hard for you to get through. Anyway. 9 degrees, Bradley says, in Minnesota. Is that MN? Is that what Minnesota is? I don't remember. Or Montana. Could be Montana. 9 degrees is pretty cold, though. It is 67 degrees outside here in sunny Southern California, although it's not sunny right now. Okay. So, well, that's not how I wanted it to do. Okay, there we go. Sorry. So, which BaoFeng is the best BaoFeng? I get all these questions. People send me links. Do you recommend this? Do you recommend that? Like, remember, going back to, they all are the standard. They all meet the standard criteria. They're all going to do... P. Cola Pilot, thank you. $10, buddy. If you have a question, feel free to post it in the chat. It'll pop right up to the top. You always get the standard when you buy BaoFeng. It's going to be 5 watts at least, up to 7 or 8. It's going to have a nice lithium-ion battery. It's going to do dual watch, and it's going to have pretty crappy menus. Okay, and the aesthetics can be a little bit different, but they generally look the same, right? Let me show you here. You're generally going to always find this orange button here and an A/B button. A/B selects the top line and the bottom line, and then you're going to get your exit button, your menu button, and you're going to get the 2 arrows in the middle. All the BaoFengs are pretty much going to look like this. You're never going to get away from something like this. It's always going to look like this. So any of the radios that have a different case, or they're slightly waterproof, or they're slightly this, or slightly that, it's all a play on the same game. The guts, the BaoFeng guts on the inside is pretty much the same. It's just what they wrap it in. So just be careful where your money's going. If it's going for just a slightly more water-resistant case, that's up to you. If you want that, great. If you don't, think about it. Also, something to keep in mind about those waterproof models or the resistant models is your standard programming cable might not work. I should probably put that on the slide somewhere, but they come up so rare that I don't really mess with them. Nathaniel asks, what about BaoFeng UV82 HP high power dual band radio 136 portable 2-way? Don't see it up there. Yeah, don't see it up there yet because we haven't gotten to that. So which BaoFeng is best? I have two. That's the BFF8. It's got the original look of the UV5R that hit the market years ago. It does 8 watts. I feel that it is the most robust and rigid feeling of all the BaoFengs. What's number 2? That would be the UV82 HP. It's 7 watts. Okay, now it says high power. The BFF8 does 8 watts, but when you go to Amazon and the website for the UV82, it says 7 watts, and so I don't know how to trust it. It's water resistant. It's got that little flappy thing on the side with the screwdriver, and then it has a dual PTT switch. Oh shoot! Show the slides. Sorry guys, I ruined all my fun. I had like animations and everything. So the UV82 has a dual PTT button. You got that top line and the bottom line. You push the button on the top or the bottom, and that's what it transmits on, either the A or the B side. Sorry about not having the slides up. It's kind of hard actually juggling this at the same time. We need like a producer so I can just talk and people can mess with slides and talk in the chat around me. Tom says, picked up the UV5R2 Plus on Amazon, but I cannot get the FM bands to work. Anyone else have that issue? Do I need a different antenna? No, you shouldn't have to need a different antenna. And by FM bands, you just mean the standard FM frequencies. The radio itself is an FM radio, and it receives FM traditional music stations as well. So I believe to do that, I'm going to switch back over again. Sorry, guys. To go FM, I believe you just hit the call button. Or is it the... No. What's going on here? No. Oh, I know what. Whoa. Jeez. Yeah. So when there's nobody transmitting or you're not receiving anybody, click the little call button and it should put you into FM. Alright. I'm going to put it back in a scan. And we're going to turn it down. Okay. Yeah, so hit the call button and it'll put you in scan. So, if anybody asks, what does Hashnasi recommend as far as BaoFengs go? BFF8 HP and the UV82 Plus, the high-powered model. Now, looking at the two side by side, I think the UV82 is very ugly. I think it's an ugly, ugly radio. I don't know what it is. The style of it, I think it's because like the screen's in the middle with the speaker on top. It's very kind of weird. Anyway. Yeah, so the UV82 is probably going to have a much better speaker. You can tell just from looking at it. Yeah, don't hold the call button. It'll start like a broadcast alert. It's not a good idea. What else? Yeah, make sure you're on when you try and hit the call button. Make sure you're not on a station that or a channel that is currently transmitting, because you won't be able to switch over. So there you go. Yeah, if you want some fun, go to a frequency where there's nobody on it and hold down the call button and it'll blow up. Dan asks, having a terrible time programming my UV82. I know I'm doing it right, but it says it doesn't recognize. So, are you talking about download from radio? If you download from radio and the radio is just ignoring you, it doesn't respond, it might be your cable. That's almost always the first thing. Sure, you people in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but having played with the counterfeit cables and then buying the better cable, you plug it in a chirp, you turn the radio on, plug it in a chirp. It just works. It's just very simple. It's very little headaches. There's very little games you have to play. The most you ever have to do is just turn the radio off, turn it back on, and that's it. So Tasman asks, have you played around with the BF9 V2? So the BF9 is, I believe, the next iteration of the BF 8 HP. So if it is the big brother or the next in line, then it's probably fine. Remember, going back to... I didn't know I could do that. Going back to the first thing, the standards, all BaoFengs are going to have these standards. So if they have these standards, you're going to be fine. Toys Are For Boys asks, I want a radio that I can pick up airplane frequencies. My F8 HP can't. I'm going to talk about that very soon, young Padawan, so hang on tight. It's coming. I'm going to make a recommendation that does that. And it's sitting on my desk, the radio that does that. Yeah, so Roberto said it. The FTDI chipset is the best way to go. And you pay $20 for it, and you never have a headache. You just plug it in, it works. You download from radio, you do what you got to do, you upload to radio. Boom, easy. Easy. Like, I cannot stress this enough. So anyway, boom, 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 boom. So then, here we go. What other radios can do this too? Like, what other radios can do what the BaoFeng does? Here's the answer. All of them. Pretty much all of them. And some of them do way more. Way more and better. Okay? But what's the difference? You're paying for that. You're paying for that capability. For most people, they're going to be fine just working repeaters, working simplex with their friends, and it's going to stop there. And they're going to be fine. And you can even push the limits of any of the BaoFengs. You can go download these You can go buy these adapters off of eBay, and yeah, that's the guys. If you go on eBay, come on, and you search Easy Digi, come on. There we go. Easy Digi by KF5INZ, made for the UV5R and the UV82. So what you do with this guy is this plugs into the programming jacks, the mic and the speaker jack on the radio. You turn Vox on, and then you plug this side into your iPhone or your Android phone, and you can do APRS. Yeah, you just have to remind yourself to tune your BaoFeng to the appropriate APRS frequency, and then you can do APRS with your cheap BaoFeng. I've done it. I actually made, before I bought that box, I made a cable that does that. That box is better because it has the proper resistors in it. Okay, so the BAM, right out of the gate. What can do everything the BaoFeng does plus more? The Yaesu FT2DR. It's a true dual receive radio. It can receive 2 channels simultaneously. And it can receive everything. Wideband receive from 0.5 all the way up to 999 megahertz. It's a beast. It's a $300 beast. It is a very powerful radio. Embedded GPS. It records to micro SD. Over 1,200 channels that you can store, and that means like everything, because it also does digital. It does Yaesu's digital, which is called Fusion. Not the same thing as DMR, not the same thing as D-Link, not the same thing as all the other D-Star. So there's a price to that. You're paying hundreds of dollars, but it does it. Okay, it does it. It's got a big old touchscreen. It's got all that stuff, right? So that's one thing that does it, plus more. I would put this in the realm of, had this been out a little bit sooner, I would have bought this over my D72A, which is on the table. I like this radio a lot. I really like this radio, and it's water resistant as well, like most of the Yaesus. Shout out to Yaesu too. So a lot of people buy BaoFengs because they don't care if they destroy them, and they're slightly water resistant. BaoFengs are like really, really good at that. I'm sorry, Yaesu radios are like known for being the robust ham radios. They're water resistant, they're particle resistant, they're very good for taking outside and hiking with, beating up, stuff like that. So Roberto asks, Mobiland is great for, Mobilink D is great for APRS, triggers PTT, so no Vox, can leave your radio squelch open for better packet decoding. Yeah, so there's all kinds of different options. I was just mentioning the very cheap option. But if you guys are interested in APRS, which is another video entirely, the Mobile Link D, you can look that up. Okay. The Yaesu FT60R. So going back for a second, that the FT2DR, that will receive airband. That'll receive all kinds of stuff. But guess what also does? The old classic FT60R will receive airband. And believe it or not, you can open that up and you can modify it on the inside and it will work FRS and GMRS as well. So it's like the BaoFeng before BaoFengs ever existed. The FT60 was like the original BaoFeng. It was just expensive. And it is. It's still expensive. It's about $150. $150 for a BaoFeng. That is, the Yaesu is better than the BaoFeng in every way. It's tough. It's reliable. It's the best, one of the best front ends in all radios. And let me explain what a front end is. It's the receive capability. So if I'm on a repeater with the BaoFeng, the Yaesu FT60, and it's sitting in my cup holder or whatever, and I go on my mobile and I key up, as long as the antennas aren't on similar levels, I can still hear the repeater on the receive side with the Yaesu. There's no radio that can do that. No handheld radio that can do that. The Yaesu is just far better at that. Really good front end. It has tons more channels than the BaoFeng. It's better scanning. So this was there's part of the reason why I put this up here is I wanted to show you guys a comparison here. There's your BaoFeng. Here's the Yaesu. They're both scanning. Oh man, this charging cable is not very far. Come on, buddy. I don't know if you can see it, if it's getting through on the video. Are you scanning still? The FT60 just blows the pants off of the BaoFeng. The BaoFeng just slowly kind of meters through channels, and the Yaesu just like just flies through 100 channels in lightning speed. Really, really good. You can see the comparison hopefully on the video. Such a better, so much a better radio for like a receive radio. If you've got like a mobile setup, you can use the Yaesu to pretty great effect as kind of a backup. Just let it scan, do its thing, and when it keys up, you can be like, okay, well, I'm going to jump over to that. That gives you like more radio capability. You can be jumping around with the Yaesu, almost treating it like a ham radio scanner, and then when it finds something, you can then go ahead and switch over to that frequency. Oh, where did all my other slides go? What happened here? I think in the conversion some things got messed up. Oh yeah, these things got all messed up. Okay, I've got one more. So catch up on the slides here. So then the other, the other one that I recommend, and this is more expensive than all the other ones I mentioned. The Yaesu D72, which is the older version, you can probably save $100 if you buy that one. The only thing that the D74A does that the D72A doesn't do is the 1.25 meter band. The Kenwood is made for APRS. That is its bread and butter. It is a packet radio machine because it in itself is a fully functioning TNC. I mentioned that. It's a terminal node controller. Meaning, just that radio, you can plug your laptop into it, and using all kinds of software, you can actually use the radio to modulate data from the computer and transmit packets. So you can do messaging, you can do emails, you can do all kinds of stuff, all through that fun little radio using the appropriate contacts, whether you're on whatever it is. All kinds of different things you can do with the Kenwood D72. And the Kenwood D72 is, again, it has embedded GPS. A lot of the other radios do too. But because it gives you full control over it via laptop, you can do tons of amazing things with it. I like mine a lot. The only problem with with a lot of this stuff, these USB softwares, all that stuff, I mentioned it last time, because I'm such a kind of Mac heavy user, software choices are kind of limited. And so if you're if you stick more to Windows, you're going to have an easier time with finding software that can operate all the frequencies within, or not the frequencies, the functionality of the radio. Downside, it's expensive. It's $400, $500, and it's kind of fragile, particularly if you compare it to that of the Yaesu. So, yeah. Kind of blew through those slides. So that's the problem with slides. So it does not affect performance. Stack. I just picked up an F8 HP and a Nagoya 771, and it has like a 2mm gap. That is not going to be an issue, but there shouldn't be a gap. Stack, there shouldn't be a gap. Nagoya 771, you say? Let me see here. Let me see what it looks like. Oh, I have one of those. Hold on. Let's try it. So, not exactly, but it's the same connector. Let me switch back over. So, oh, this is going to be the wrong... That's the wrong size. Oh, wait, no, that should work. Should that work? Let's try. Hold on. So, this is a UVR Mark II. So, same connection here. There is no gap. There's no appreciable gap. It came with a spacer. Well, so the short answer to your question is, if it tightens up all the way and it doesn't feel like you're not getting enough of the threads in it, no. Functionality-wise, you're fine. So if you want to use that spacer just so it looks nicer, you're fine. Tom Mayers asks, anyone ever use an ICOM ID31? That is a new radio that came out. It is 70 centimeter only. I was actually going to mention it in the slides, but I've never actually held one. I have held the ID51, which is its kind of bigger brother. It's been around a little bit longer. That one does 2 meter and 70 centimeter. That one's also like $120 more expensive. The 31 is actually a really nice, water-resistant, entry-level D-Star radio with embedded GPS. If you're going to pick a digital form that you want to branch into, D-Star would be one of the better ones for sure. D-Star, DMR. DMR is a little bit harder to wrap your hands around and like get good at it and get it all set up. I'm going to be making a video on that soon with the Redivis here. That Redivis, I want to do a review on it, and it was a difficult time getting that set up. It was kind of it was difficult, I'll be honest. I will be doing a video on antennas soon. I have all these are antennas I need to review, plus there's some behind me here, and I'm trying to work out how to do it. I've got a buddy, an Instagram buddy, who I think is going to help me out, because I'm actually going to need someone to be within radius of me that we can work it out. How many watts is the FT2DR? It's 5. It's 5 watts. So you'll find that most of the Japanese radio makers, they just make them 5 watts. Oh, Mike Franco, dude, thank you. Appreciate it. Love the videos. That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much for that. The 5 watts is about what most of them go to, and I think it's because they thought, yeah, you can go to 8 watts, but dB-wise, you're not actually getting that much more improvement out of it other than very fast battery loss. In fact, I don't run the BFF8 in high power mode. I run it in medium mode almost always. And, yeah. Oh, what are the videos on the left of my shoulder? So, this shoulder? Those are some wacky radios that I will talk more about in the future. And that's a survival radio. What is that? That's the Voyager, the Kato Voyager. Hold on. This is the Kato Voyager. I did a video on its brother, which is over there. It's like a survival radio, hand crank radio. It is. It has both a solar panel. It has internal rechargeable batteries, and you can have standalone batteries. It has charging capability, so you can actually charge off it or charge to it from the myriad of connectors on that thing. So, such a cool radio. And it sounds good too. It just does shortwave, it does weather, it does AM, FM. I like to listen to coast AM on this thing occasionally. Just give it a bit of a, you can see it. Yeah, man. It's a cool radio. It's got a desk light. Nice little, like, if you were, like, in a bad situation, it's pretty handy. It's pretty handy. Used to have, before Amazon made you go to, like, the affiliate program, I used to have it in my A store. You should probably throw one of those back up in my A store. I really do like those Katos. Big fan of those. Oh, this one, I forgot, too. This is kind of handy. It's got a humidity and a thermometer. Very cool. 27, man. That is low. It's dry in California. Yeah, I can't say enough. Oh yeah, good piece of, great camping radio. Great camping radio. If you have a Go bag that, or a Go trunk bag or something like that, one of those radios actually should be in my trunk right now. I usually keep one of them in my trunk because they truly. I don't put batteries in them because the batteries can leak. I leave the rechargeables. And then if you find batteries, great, you'll throw them in there, but you still got the solar, you got the hand crank. It's awesome. I made a whole video on it. I'll post it in the cards. You can go check it out. Love that. Okay, somebody catch me up on the Ed Powell. Ed, thank you so much. Appreciate the donation there. Okay, so let me catch up. There were so many things that we were talking about. So somebody asked, what is the Redivis? I haven't carried this enough, so I can't do a full recommendation on it yet. But so far, I like it a lot. I'll try to make this quick. This is a hard discussion. So DMR, digital mobile radio, was designed originally for the commercial world. Like if you had a small fleet of cars or trucks and you wanted to have people carry radios, you could program them all very similarly. You could program them in different talk groups like delivery drivers, mechanics, engineers, I don't know. And then they could just talk to each other in their own talk group. But they could talk to each other on their own talk group over the same repeater at almost the same time. The reason they can do that is the digital radio, when it's digitizing the RF, it's actually using less cycle time on the repeater, and it's not required to take up the whole thing for the voice. Like when you key down on your analog, you're taking up 100% of that receive capability on the repeater that's receiving you. With digital, it's not like that. You're just transmitting the digital RF to it, and the repeater's sorting out where it needs to go and putting it in the appropriate place. So that allows them to kind of mix and match things. Well, as soon as DMR came out, amateur radio started picking them up and saying, how do we adapt this? How do we modify this? How do we make this work? Initially, very few digital radios were very modifiable. You couldn't really modify the digital radio in the way that amateurs like. Having a keypad, being able to do it on the fly. Question in the chat post asked, is DMR similar to a trunked radio system? Well, one mode is. There's 3 modes of DMR. The first 2 modes are non-trunked, and the third mode is trunked. Trunked is more for commercial stuff. Most of the amateurs don't really want to deal with trunked radios. Somebody asked in the chat, what's the most desirable between DMR, D-Star, and Fusion? I think it's a case-by-case situation, and it's based off your geographic location. In my experience in Southern California, D-Star is very popular, and DMR is pretty popular. Fusion is not so popular. So that's pretty much how that's. And then Motorola has one. Motorola plays in both sides. Motorola will play with DMR, and they have their own something digital. I am not a Motorola guy. No offense to Motorola's. They're kind of expensive, and they are like commercial radios first. Very expensive, and they're difficult to program. Yeah. So the Retevis 82 is a. They have two models. They have a GPS and a non-GPS. And with it, you can basically communicate kind of like an internet-capable repeater. You can talk to a repeater, and if that repeater is linked within a DMR network, you could talk to the whole state, you could talk to the United States, you could talk to just a local talk group, and it all depends on how you program it. That's a blessing and a curse because it's complicated. It can be very complicated to program your radio. DMR, I don't want to spoil a lot of my video because I'm going to do a video on that radio. DMR is like the radio that you'd pick if you had a really good group of friends that were all into radio together. Because you'd all program your radios up the same, and you'd all be able to talk to each other, and you'd have all these great little talk groups that you could, depending on where you're at, you'd be able to always be in communication, and you wouldn't have to do like simplex only, right? That's what I would say. DMR, D-Star, Fusion, they're all really, really good at like kind of like a close-knit group of people. If you had that close-knit group, they do really well for you. I'd actually give probably D-Star a bit of the leg up because I know that, and Fusion probably does this too, but what happens when you get one of those radios and you key in your call sign, it'll actually kind of like figure out all the DMR or the D-Star repeaters in the area, and it'll automatically program them, which is pretty badass. That's very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, let me catch up. Roberto, so Roberto's gonna, he mentioned it, it'll be in my antenna video, but there's a lot of counterfeit Nagoyas out there. Just like everything out of China, like everything's counterfeit, so you gotta be really careful. There's a website that shows you how to spot counterfeit Nagoyas and counterfeit antennas. I'm sure probably that this one right here is counterfeit. At a certain point, an antenna is not that difficult. That a counterfeit is going to be much worse off than an original. So it's kind of like one of those. You've got a Chinese company ripping off a Chinese company. Are you really that mad about it? Because Chinese companies rip off everybody all the time. So I don't really feel that bad about it. Question in the chat says, I'm having trouble programming my VV898. Do you have any advice? It won't put tags in properly and skip channels. VV898. I don't even know what that is. Oh, it's a little mobile. So Matthew, throw up in the chat. Hawkeye, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thanks a lot, guys. That's very nice of you guys. Matthew, throw up in the chat what you're using to modify or program it with. Are you using Chirp? Are you using software that came with the radio? If it's software that came with the radio, I can't really help you because I probably don't know it, and I really only use Chirp. James says counterfeits on cheapo knockoffs of the real stuff. Yeah, exactly. So it's like Chinese products are somewhat copies of other antennas, and then they're now counterfeiting the counterfeits. Okay. Boys Are Toys said, I bought from B-Tech's Amazon page. Should be real. Had a gap. Came with no spacer and a tiny O-ring that barely fit over the threads. Yeah, it can be hit and miss. Good question, FN dude. I have to decide. So I don't have a poll capability on this live stream, but tell me what you would rather see. Would you rather see a review of the FT88 or a shootout of all the antennas I have for BaoFengs and Chinese radios, which is like, I think I have like 6 antennas. I'm going to also throw this on the Patreon, and they are going to have more weight, but I'll count up in chat, too. In fact, let me get some paper. Just tell me what you... Just say RT82 or antenna. Just type it out in the chat, and I'll count it up. I'll call it out live. It'll be like we're betting. Do we have anybody that want to take a bet on antenna? Okay, there's one for antenna. And 2 for antenna. I kind of figured everybody wants to see an antenna. Yeah, it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be a blowout! That's 5. 5 for antennas. Not 1 for the RT88. Don't worry, I'm going to get to the RT88. If anything, it's probably good that the RT88 goes last, because I need to spend a lot more time with it. I drank from the fire hose when I opened that box. There's a lot of details. Oh man. Okay, well, you guys are telling me what I should work on this weekend. I already have a rig for it. I've already got some of the stuff done. I just need to make the B-roll and put it all together. No, I'm not going to do a live stream for the antenna. That'll be a standalone video because I've got to do so much B-roll. Because what we're talking about here is it's a blowout. Everybody in the chat wants the antenna. I'm going to stop at 10 to 0. So I need to do 2 things. In fact, what's the best way to show you this? I'll just show you live. So there's really 2 things we're talking about here. One, well, it's easier to do this. So this is my dual band SWR and power meter. And what that allows me to do is tell me, 1, how much power is being radiated, and 2, or put out from the radio, and 2, how good the match is. And so what do we mean by match? SWR is standing wave ratio, which is you use the antenna and you're putting power through the antenna, and the length of the antenna and the counterpoise is such that all of that energy, or at least that's the goal, all of that energy is being pushed out into the atmosphere in the form of RF waves. If it's a shorter antenna than it should be, you're going to reflect data down the reflected side, the counterpoise, and you heat up your radio. That's why sometimes your radio gets hot because when you're transmitting, because the antennas aren't perfect SWR matches. So you get reflected power back into the radio and into your hand and whatever. So first part of the radio is you're going to connect the radios on this side, the antennas on this side, and I'll do an SWR check to see how good of a match it is. That's the first part. Figure out how good of a match the antenna is to the radio. Longer antennas are probably going to do much better in this area, just my assumption. And then I built a small little rig. It's like a standalone metal box, and that's the tricky part. So I think I mentioned this before, but when you're holding your radio, this is the driven angle. This is the part we're sending power out of, and it's wiggly woggling RF waves all over the place. Well, when you're holding it, you're actually part of the counterpoise. You're part of... we're part of the ground. The radio antenna and the counterpoise, your body, is what's creating the match and the ability to radiate. So it's difficult to model the human body around the antenna. I got kids screaming in the background. Sorry about that. It's difficult for you to recreate that in like a jig, in like an antenna jig. So I've got this metal thing set up, and I've got it clamped to a table. Oh, geez, there's somebody in the door. Clamped to the table, and I'm going to basically swap in and out all these antennas, and then I'm going to use this analyzer. And what this analyzer does is, for a given frequency range, it's going to tell us how efficient the antenna is across that range. And that's what you want. You want to know how broad-banded the antenna is for your radio, or if it's very narrow-banded. Pretty easy. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, let me catch them in the chat, because I know you guys are talking about programming. Somebody asked the UV5X3 tri-band thoughts. Don't know. I don't have one. I've never put hands on one. I've never even seen one in the wild. My assumption is it's probably not doing one of those bands very well. And my guess is it's probably going to be 2 meter or 1.22 meter. Okay, so got word back from Matthew. I've tried programming my VV898 with Chirp and the Lexan software. Both do the same thing, and I can't update the firmware either. Okay, Matthew, what is it doing? Tell me what it's doing. Spain, we got somebody from Spain in the room. Awesome. Thanks for watching. Somebody says EdPal asks options in the short 1-inch fat antenna for the BaoFeng. They're going to be poor performers. They'll be very poor performance. Because basically what they're doing is they're taking your standard antenna, right? They're taking the standard antenna, and they're taking all this and coiling it up, and they're compacting it into a little nubbin that sits on top of your radio. You got to understand, if you don't, you have to have this length, because if you don't have the antenna somewhat in ratio range of the actual physical size of the wave that you're trying to transmit on, 2 meter, for example. So you need at least half of the what do you call it? You need to have half of the wave length, physical wavelength. So 2 meters. Your antenna should be 1 meter. You can do quarter, so half of 1 meter, right? Reality sense, there's a little step here, and you've got the full length, and then you've got this whole part in the middle that's actually coils on coils. So this is actually already a shortened, much longer antenna. Yeah. Hawkeye, Beer of the Week Club. So no Beer of the Week Club, but I am going to do a shout out for all the patrons at the end. I noticed that there's a lot of people have like first name, last name in their Patreon, and I don't know that they want me to say their first name and last name. So I'm going to start with the first name. If anybody wants me to or doesn't, I'll support that. So let's see. Yeah, so if you remember the concept that antennas are supposed to be quarter wavelength or half wavelength, then you realize that all they're doing by making it smaller is just coiling them up tighter and wrapping them so that they're smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. It's not good. It's not good for propagation. Not good at all. Okay, catching up on the chat. Matthew's using Windows. Oh, something Matthew typed was retracted. You can't post links, Matthew. So I'm not sure. You got the Netherlands in the house. Awesome. Love that. So yeah, Matthew, you can try and tell me what's happening, but I'll just guess. Are you plugging the radio in, you got it turned on, you plug it into the computer, and you're trying to download from radio, and it says radio doesn't respond? If that's the case, then I'm going to blame your cable. That's what I always do when people ask me, like, so what do I do? And I said, does it say can't download from radio? Yes. Are you using counterfeit cable? Maybe? And that's probably what it is. Oh, yeah, 5/8 wave will do it too. So, Robert, there's links. This is all RF theory stuff. I'm not going to get too much into it, but there are physical lengths of wire that at certain ratios, 5/8, for example, half, quarter is often done, that they resonate on that frequency, 2 meters, 20 meters, right? So 20 meter dipole, we make that by 2 pieces, quarter length of that waveform, and one is the driven angle, or one is the driven side, and the other is the counterpoise. That's kind of how we do that. And there's all kinds of calculators you can look up on Google if you want to build your own 2 meter antenna. You can do it out of copper plumbing. Made a video on that too. So let's see. I need to post the Kato radio, and I'll post my J-pole. my J-Pole video in the chat. If I program 10 channels, it will only program 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and either show frequency or something weird for the tag. Wow. Did you follow my video on how to program a BaoFeng or other ham radio and how you have to like sort the channels? Did that work? I'll let you think about that and come back. Otherwise, the other thing you do is just download from radio, save it, save off the whole program, and then do a factory reset of the radio, and then connect the radio back, and then send the old file back onto it, and see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, go ahead and reset it, and then reprogram it from scratch. Malaysia, we got somebody from Malaysia. Is that Elias? Is it Elias? Is that how you pronounce that? Elias? Nice. Very cool. Welcome from Malaysia. So I hope that was somewhat beneficial. DM5R Plus. No, I have not. I'm very new in DMR. I have my thoughts on DMR. And the newsletter I sent out is going to be a little bit about that, and I'll also talk about it in the video. The newsletter is going to go out this weekend for the patrons, but that's going to cover my thoughts on DMR. I like it, but there's some things I don't like. We'll talk about it in the video too. That's going to come a little bit later. Antennas first, though. Antennas first. But as far as HTs go, is there any other questions on handhelds? I'm happy to answer those questions. Come now, or forever hold your peace so long as it takes you to get to my Facebook page and ask me a question. Because that's what everybody does. I'm not going to do that because I value everybody's privacy, but I swear I get questions like a couple times a day just from other people saying, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And just ask me about a radio. Not even the radios I recommend, which is funny because if you go to my influencer page, you know what I recommend. I'm recommending that. James says, would you be willing to go into on your antenna video, making an antenna more so the center versus the outside in a DIY handheld? On long wire is easy, not sure about handheld. So you're saying make a video on making a handheld antenna? Never really thought about it. There's no reason why. I haven't really thought about it, though. Matthew, yeah, I did all that. Reset, program, 0 channels, even tried in chirp upload, VHF marine channels and tags, still same thing. Matthew, I'd send it back then, buddy. If you sound like you know what you're doing. So if you've gone through that level and you're getting really weird performance out of it, I would just call it a day and send it back and have them send you a new one or get a different radio. I'm looking at it. This is that VV898. I'm looking at it, and if it was the one that we talked about last week, I still don't know how I feel about it. It looks kind of sketchy. This is the one that's like 10 watts, right? I think it is. This is it's the Lixen. Oh no, I don't want to go to that website. I don't get to a virus. Some websites, are just like straight up Chinese front websites. Like this is the 10 watt, $65. I thought I said I was sketchy on this one. I don't know how I feel about it. Toys are for boys. For the O-ring to fix the gap on the F8 HP with the Nagoya search 14mm OD. There you go. You have to buy 50, but it's only $5. The one I'm looking at on Amazon, the LXVV898, says it's only 10 watts. 25 watts is better. Mike Franco asks, what's a good antenna for the UV5R? I communicate a lot, about an hour drive each way in car. So if you had asked me what's a good antenna for X, I would have just said, the longest one you can put on the radio. But since you're saying commute, you mean in a car. Do you mean a mobile antenna? Like something that would be sticking to the roof? If that's the case, there's a lot of ways you can go. You can go mag mount, and a mag mount into a Comet quarter wave 2 meter would be great. And you just twist that on with the female SMA connector. Easy. Do that. Or yeah, I don't know what you mean. If you mean a handheld, there's lots of options. The longest one you can get is usually the best. But the problem with long is that it's cumbersome. The radios fall over if you try to stand them up on the table. Yeah, so think about that. Let me know what you mean. Sleestack. Okay, he's talking to somebody in the chat, I think. Okay, well, let's do one thing before we go here. Go back to my... All right. So the patrons for the week, thank you so much. All you guys, amazing support. I appreciate it. It's patreon.com/Hosnasi. There is some different levels for depending on different content that I produce. So you can go check it out if you're interested. But Carrie, Michael, Jody. Jody's one of the ones that got their license at TRW Swap Meet. Guarva, I think it's Guarva, nice name. Fred, Roger, and I put an exclamation behind Ice Bomb. I don't know why, I just like the name. So all you guys are awesome. These are Patreons across all levels because it's kind of like the first week, my kickoff week. I wanted to say thank you to a lot of people. So we'll go back to the standard rewards for the next week, but you guys are awesome. I appreciate that just immensely, so thank you. What else we got? So I hope we hit... Do you think the Tiger Tail mod does anything? No. So, I played around with that. Tiger Tail mod is where you've got your radio, and you take a piece of wire, and you let it hang off the side like a ground. I can't imagine it does much, because you're already the ground. Oh, Ed is Guarva. Nice, man. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. You're already the ground. That's what I don't think people understand is that they are the counterplane, like the counterpoise. You are a part of the radio. You are a part of the antenna. It's radiating all around you. You are the ground side. So would adding a little bit of copper wire help that much? I don't think so. Okay. All right. So check out the Facebook if you have any questions. Go to Ham Radio Crash Course and join. If you've gotten your license recently, please go to the Ham Radio Crash Course and make a post about it so we can all herald you with joy and success. And then we can tell you, okay, now go get your general. I'm just kidding. Yeah, and if you're interested, go check out Patreon. Carrie, thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all the messages I get from people that tell me that they got their license. Every week, it's like it's going up in numbers how many people have gotten their license. When I was at Ham Radio Outlet a couple of days ago, actually yesterday, somebody came up to me and said, do you make videos on YouTube? I was like, I do. And he was like, your video was the one that inspired me to get into ham radio, and it was the video I made for the FT60R years ago. He hasn't even seen any of my newer stuff. I was like, oh man, that's great. You should go check out the stuff I'm doing now. But still, I was like, that's awesome. Super cool. And that was his first radio. And he bought it from that ham radio outlet, the same ham radio outlet I bought mine from. It's pretty cool. Okay, then we're going to leave it at that. I have not seen the... so I'm on iPhone, and so I use something called GoSat Watch for satellites, and that's what I used when I talked on AO50, which is a repeater in the sky, basically. Yeah, Matthews, if you got a video, send me that. Tom just passed his test, going for general in a couple weeks. That's some ambition. Dude, thank you, Tom. Appreciate the compliment. As always, thank you guys. Okay, we'll leave it at that. We're just past the hour point here. And yeah, look for some... I'll get to work on that antenna video. I've got so much stuff on the table that I need to do, but I think that the antenna video is the most desired at this point. I know it. The chat is proof. SDR video, yes. that's probably going to be a ways ahead. I'm not going to do an SDR video for a while. I'm probably going to get a new HF radio before I do a SDR video. But anyway, that's not to say it won't happen, just not for a while. Okay, that's it. Thank you, guys. Well, now I've got to sit here and wait while I go click the button. Okay, we're going to click the button. So yeah, try to. Yes!